was trying to help build a runway system for the airports there in Grenada. And here it goes as America. They want to get Ronald Reagan. He wants to get his hands involved and talk about this as a terrorist. They're trying to build air force there and military there to combat America and try to destroy America. It's like, this is Grenada. Grenada is Grenada the size of the Bronx in New York City. How are they going to try to take out America? But then lo and behold, Maurice Bishop within 2 years was dead. You know what I'm saying? Within 2 years was dead. And you had Ronald Reagan sending over, again, the same with what they're doing right now, sending over his soldiers over, talking about to Grenada, talking about how they had some Americans there held hostage and all of that. It's all this crazy stuff just so they can get in and start something, right? And because they need a reason to display to the media, display to the public. And they all work together, bro. And so they didn't necessarily hands-on kill Maurice Bishop, but they still had their hands in it because they hired from within Maurice Bishop's camp to take out Maurice Bishop. So America still has dirty hands. So this reminds me of the same situation. They're going to do the same thing. Going to do the same thing. They have to start out. They have to start out somewhere with putting out some sort of propaganda. You know what I'm saying, bro? So that's I hope that answers your question, bro. But that's basically my take on that. When it comes to the war, we just have to sit back and watch. Time is going to tell. We're going to see how history repeats itself. Time is going to tell.
I like that. Now, let me ask you a question. In regards to the marching and what is owed to us. Do you think the reason why nobody takes reparations serious when it comes to foundational Black Americans in the United States of America is because all we want is symbolism? Do you think we want symbolism more than the actual repayment, or do you think we want the repayment? What do you think? That's my question too.
That's an excellent question. And see that's why you don't even have to ask about any top. You come up with the best topics. You don't even gotta ask me about the topic. You come up with the best. I ain't even gonna pick out no topics. You go by your man, because that's an excellent question.
Hey, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about it all day. Questions like I had questions. That's why I wish you could have heard my boy Kimara. This brother was dropping so many jewels. I had to mute myself because I was laughing because the stuff that he was saying is so how young he is. And was thinking about questions I was going to ask him all day. So these were questions that I wanted to ask you all day. So how do you? I'm gonna ask you again. Do you think they don't take us serious as foundational Black Americans or Native Blacks, as Dr. Clark Anderson says it, because we're more focused on symbolism? And that's the first part of the question. The second question is, do we as Black folk want symbolism or do we want the repayment?
Absolutely. So they're not taking us seriously right now. Number one, because we're having too many debates about what reparations is. You have people fighting for reparations right now, or so-called fighting for reparations right now, and they're only fighting for the symbolism. When we were promised reparations, or suggest when the suggestion came up from like Sumner and all of them, those radical Republicans, they said, "Yo, we got to give. In order for Black folks to be free, you got to give them 40 acres, a mule, and money." Now, we can take that symbolically or we can take that literally. But still, all in all, the 40 acres is the land. The mule is the is the property that you would use to take care of your land. And the money, the $100, would be to continue circulating from outside within to within to take care of your land, the mule, and your family, right? So basically, you can look at that as symbolic, but the way that America would present it is as if we only want the money. And they get tricky when it comes to the money because now they already know that we're divided. So they would say, well, how can we really define who? First of all, what is reparations? Then they'll throw something else. How can we define who should get it and who shouldn't? Because you had Indians, or these so-called Indians, who had blacks as slaves as well. So they're like, well, who should get it? You see, who should get it? Who is actually born from slavery? Uh, who's really foundational here? Right. And so they want to throw out all of these things. You got some folks who would say, listen, I'm not African American, I'm an American. Some folks say I'm not American, I'm African American. Other folks say I'm neither, I'm just black. Other folks say, yo, I'm just native black. Then other folks say, yo, I'm a foundational black American. The other folks say, well, I'm a native black American. Other folks say, well, I'm Cherokee, I'm Blackfoot. There is so many things, right? So they can say, well, that gets tricky, so we can't just give out money. As for the Asians, they come over, or the Irish, they come over. The Germans and everything, they come over as Europeans. The Asians come over as Asians, no doubt about it. And they'll call themselves Asians. The Chinese and Japanese can't get along. They hate each other's guts. But just to get that money, we'll all be called Asians for that. A lot of these Italians, they don't like these Irishmen. They consider a lot of the Irish to be the scum. But in order to get that money, we all Europeans now. Black folks, we got to play the same thing. We got to play the same game. We have to have one name and go by that one name. Get our reparations, get our money, get our land, get our tools. Then we want them to leave us alone for 52 years. Leave us alone for 52 years. Don't interfere. Leave us alone. And then once we begin to start building, not even begin, but once we've built, once we got everything mobilized and it's moving, then we can go back and say, well, you're foundational, you're Blackfoot, you call yourself whatever you want. You're an African American, you're just an American. Okay, fine. But in order for us to get this, money, to get this land, to get our tools, we got to go under one block, one thing, one name, one aim. They're not going to take us seriously if we keep fighting over something that simple. We can't even there's a lot that has been taken from us, and it's not just in the form of money as well. I personally believe that we need reparations in all 9 activities of life, like Neely Fuller said, and he named all 9 activities that in which racism affects our life. I also believe that if we take those same 9 areas, we deserve reparations in each one because we had so much taken away from us. We already know in economics, we want our money back. We want to be able to have our own circulation of money coming in into our community and money leaving out. They've taken that from us by denying us rights. They set up certain laws in the Constitution to make sure that we stay oppressed. The laws that was written for us, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, they kind of under the table vetoed that in this sort of way. With these other constitutions and these other laws, it combats that everything. So now they can say, well, the 13th, 14th, and 15th wasn't really for black people; it was for minorities. So white women are a minority. Asian women are a minority, gays are a minority. So you guys going to that table too. So that's where it gets kind of tough. And we're saying, no, we're different, right? We're different from those groups. You can't even put them in the same table with us. But when it comes to that economic situation, they can always play that game. And then when you look at education, we've never been taught true education. They've never taught us true education. They taught us a bunch of lies. They never taught us about the great accomplishments of our African brothers and sisters, of our not just knowing that we come from kings and queens. Like that was just about 5% of the land. 5% of the Africans were kings and queens. Not everybody was a king and queen. You had more scientists, engineers, inventors, artists. You had more literature. You had more than just kings and queens. I would much rather be called an engineer than a king or a queen, because I can accomplish being a king or a queen, but being an engineer, that's something special. You either born with it or not, with the knowledge or not. You know what I'm saying? You either have the drive for it or not. You know what I'm saying? So we've never been given that. Instead, they took it away by telling us where we come from is full of savages and all like that. So they've denied us true access to our education, to the accomplishments that Black people made here in America. They've denied us that. They've taken a lot away from us when it comes to the entertainment. We can't even put out what we can't even sell what we put out. If we want to put out, if me and you want to get together and make a movie on the FBA, on the struggles and the accomplishments of the FBA, they would tell us absolutely not. You got to make that into a documentary, or that's got to be an independent film. We cannot fund this film. So now we got to find money and things like that that's going to fund this film to get it out in the broad, to the broader audience.
Yep.
They will deny us, man. Yeah, hello?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing. You speaking facts. They would never finance a film. You see what happened when Nick Cannon, he was supposed to do the Dr. Savy film, and then all of a sudden, Nick starts speaking them facts, about the books he had read and Moorish history, and then the white Jewish community basically slapped him down, and you ain't heard nothing about the Dr. Savy film yet. And,
absolutely.
And that's why I really agree with you 100%, because I feel like now is the time where I feel like we should be paying attention. The reason why I say that is because if you look at things, now we in the war. We in another war that ain't got nothing to do with us, right? But if you look at America's history, they got bases in everybody's country, but those countries don't have bases over here. So if they don't have bases over here, but we got bases everywhere, that should let you know we're the superpower and their corrupt power that's in place. You know what I'm saying? And I think we need to look at everything that's going on. I feel like a lot of people are not speaking upon the lack of responsibility that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden has bestowed upon our people. What do you mean lack of responsibility? Well, there's a responsibility that's due to us because you told us we're not Black if we don't vote for you. So now the Black folk went out and voted, and an emotional vote. So they went out and voted for you and did all these things. And now we got an Asian hate crime bill, which I always talk about. And then we are in this war. Now gas is $5 a gallon. That $5 a gallon is going to affect Black folk before it affects everybody else. We don't own the gas companies. We don't own the gas stations. Like you said, those are our Iraq and Iranian brothers. Those, we don't own them. They do. We don't own the liquor stores. So, I feel like with everything taking place with the war and with inflation, now is a time where we do need to get on code. I do agree with you. We need to come together and figure out who we are and stick with that so we can get the repayment that we need. Because think about it like this. If we don't come up with a name that we're going to call ourselves, they're going to use that. Now, I do agree with Dr. Claude Anderson and Tariq Nasheed with Native Black, foundational Black, because it gives a distinction on whose family could be traced to that 1877 census, and those are the people that should get it, and it's not hard for them to do. And I understand why that's being done, so the waters can't be muddied up. But I do agree with you in terms of, okay, are we going native black like Dr. Claude Anderson? Are we going FBA? Are we going native slash FBA? What are we doing? Because whatever we doing, let's just figure it out. I'm with whatever. Let's just figure it out so we can get the bread. So we don't have to be dealing with a lot of the stuff that our people are dealing with at these corporate plantations. So I agree with them coming up with a distinction, but I definitely agree with you, my brother. We gotta look. I've been thinking that. I'm like, okay, well, what are we calling ourselves? Okay, we calling ourselves native black? Cool. Okay, we call ourselves foundational black? Cool. I'm cool with that too. I'm like you though. I just want to figure out what we gonna call ourselves so we can get paid. Because you're right. Asians don't get along with Asians, but they gonna come together for that bread. White folk don't get along with white folk, but they gonna come together for that bread. And I feel like that's what we need to do. We argue. You tell me what you think about this. I feel like we argue about the most simplistic stuff, but we never come up with solutions. That's just
Right.
you know what I mean.
Right.
And
Right.
let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a question too. Okay, we come up with a name, right? And we all agree on it, and we come up with a name. Do you still think that black folk will want the repayment? Or do you think they'll just be happy with them changing our names to, instead of African American, to Native Black or Foundational Black American? Meaning this, my brother, do you think we'll want the repayment or we will just settle for the symbolism that comes behind it?
So I think many blacks, there's a couple of blacks that will not want they will not want the reparations. Um, I know some personally who said they don't want any, and I was type shocked. And you were talking about they don't want any because they take it as this is a handout from the government and just giving us something. But I told them just uh, check your history, and I think you'll think differently. They are we've got it. We've got. I think even though we get it, we get the reparations. I think we have to think a couple of steps down the line. What are we going to do with it? We have to do the right thing. We have to do the right thing. We all have to stay on a code. We have to put that code up there. Um, uh, Black community. I say we go by black, just whatever it is, but put black in there because black is something that a lot of people can't live without, but some people would hate living with. Put black in there. So we consider ourselves black. A lot of folks can't fake that. There's a lot of, some people are offended when you even say black. A lot of people get offended, especially the Spanish people. They get offended. You guys always begging. Oh, who said we're begging? You know what I'm saying? You got white folks, as soon as you say black, oh, it's not about that. Why does it always have to be about race? I just said black. Who said anything about race? I said they're only doing this because we're black. You see? So they can't fake it. You got the Middle Easterns, they don't want to be a part of black folk. They despise black folk. You know what I'm saying? This is why they have the untouchables over there. Oh man, they too dark. These people is black people. So nobody wants to, but at the same time, they can't live without us because everything that we purchase goes right back into their pockets. It goes right back into their communities. So they can't live without us. They need us. The whole world needs us. They need us. So we have to get to a point to where we can operate independently because right now we can't. So we would have to take some pages out of some of our elders' book and advance it. We would have to take a page out of Elijah Muhammad, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. I say those guys because they were for total independence. I didn't mention Martin Luther King. I love him, but I understand that later on in his life, he began to start seeing things differently and wanted to go for reparations. But had Martin Luther King lived, he would have went for reparations and spread it that well, spread it that if he would have got it, he would spread that amongst all people of color. We don't need all people of color getting reparations or being a part of our reparations. You know, Martin Luther King just had that type of heart. He wants everybody involved. He loves his black people, but he wants everybody involved. He believed in the greater good of all mankind. We need the greater good of all black people, all black kind, period. Because we're special, we're different. You know what I'm saying? So we have proof behind our blackness. You understand? You had black folks who was here even before these so-called natives. So and there's proof behind it. You got the Folsom and the Clovis and the Folsom people. And the Europeans, when they encountered them, they called them the Folsom and the Clovis people. These were just blacks who migrated from Africa here. They were already blacks here. And we can prove that. There's tools and all like that that's made that they found that when they've done excavations here, they found pyramids here. So there's proof that we were here. We were the first race here. So we need not go any further than that. So the fact that our ancestors built the highways and worked on the plantation, they built the roads, they built the plantations themselves. The fact that they've built the engines, the steam engines, and the fact that they've created the railroad lines and all like that, that's just the icing on the cake as well. So we got proof behind it. These people trying to steal patents and everything, we got proof behind all of that. So we need not go any further to prove that blacks were here and we need to get this first. We need to get our money first. We need to just get our money. We want everything. We want everything. So we want not only our money, our true form of education, we want our true form of entertainment, our true form of our labor. We want our own law. We don't want their law. We want our own law. We want to operate in politics within our community. So we want to raise up our politicians. We don't want them to be handpicked by the dominant society. We want to pick them from our community so that they come from our community and they would do for our community. We want our original faith system or religion because you guys forced us into something, or you forced us into believing these certain religions or faith practices just to continue the slavery on. All right, all remnants of the of the what's this fellow's name? I forgot his name at the moment. The Willie Lynch letter, all remnants, we want that gone because you have affected us in so many ways in the sexual war. You know what I'm saying? You've raped our ancestors. You spread diseases amongst our ancestors. You put so much dirt, destruction, and crime within our bloodlines, and then you want to turn around and criminalize us for it. What you put into us. So we want that taken back, and that's going to take a lot because a lot of it is mental and emotional. You know what I'm saying? And then war wise, we want our own war system. And if we have any brothers and sisters that's operating within their war system, we want them to have the freedom to leave. We don't want this to be like a gang situation where they have to be initiated out. You know, they've initiated in and they're initiated out. If they want to leave and form their own government within our system and operate and show us how to combat war, not only just using weapons, but even germ wars, and biological war, chemical wars, just those operations too. We want our brothers and sisters to feel free to operate within our community doing these things without you sending spies to talk about it and try to denigrate or demolish and say, well, they must be up to something. Now you want to go into war, you want to drop bombs and things like that on our laboratories, and we don't need all of that stuff. So we don't just want money, we want everything that was taken away. We have our ancestors who built things. that are still at these plantations, and they won't give them to the family members. I personally have that going on, where my family has built. They've made dresses and weapons. One of my ancestors by the name of Jack, he made a knife, and they call it Jack's knife now. But he made a knife. The whites took it. My ancestor called it Jack's knife. It was his knife. The whites took it, stole it, and gave it to a governor over there in Aiken by the name of Aiken, Governor Aiken over there in South Carolina. Now that whole area over there in South, there's a whole area in South Carolina, a whole county called Aiken County. You know what I'm saying? And they stole the idea, and that knife still resides with the whites, the white slave owners of the Corleys. They have dresses and
Wow.
all of that stuff. And I have, and so they won't give these things. We need those items back because they'll sell those items within a minute just to get that money. That means something to us because they took that and said we're going to patent it. But you didn't make up the names Jackknife. My ancestor did. But this is what they're doing to all families. It's not just mine. And the Indians, the $5 Indians, they're doing the same thing too. And those other brownish type Indians, they've done the same thing as well. So we've got property and things like that. It's not only just money, it's a lot of sentimental to it too. However, if we continue to look at this whole reparations situation and say, well, we didn't need to decide who's going to get it. The whites are saying we got them beat at this game all along. We got more than just their money. We have more than just their money. We have so much, but they're just fighting over money. Okay, instead of giving them money, instead of giving them reparations, we're just going to keep giving out these little handouts, these little stimulus checks, and at the end of the 4 year, end of the 8 year run, they're going to say we did a lot for color folks. Look at what we gave. We gave $80 billion within the stimulus. Like that all didn't go to black folks. It went to the people of color. With black folks are not just people of color. We're talking about black people specifically. So not only that, if we continue to allow people like Candace Owens and other folks like that standing up talking about they're fighting for reparations, she don't even know what reparations is. All right. She has no understanding of what it really is and what it really means. You understand? But as long as we got folks like that who is posing to be, they're Oreos. All right. They're posing to be black, but they have a white mindset. Then as long as we have people like that fighting on the behalf of reparations and the HR 40 bill, we're going to keep going on in loops. You know what I'm saying? So I say, listen, let's keep fighting for reparations. But we have to make it known that it's more than just money. Because when it comes to just money, everybody wants their hand in the pot. So when you start claiming other things, land ownership, entertainment, you start claiming all these things. You say, we had this first. Y'all stole it from us. You took it from us. You owe it to us. You owe it to us. We're not asking you to do us a favor. We're not asking you to give it to us. We're demanding it. It's more than just money. You know what I'm saying? So I think we also got to have certain things in that's situated. We got to have banks. You know what I'm saying? That's big. We have to have our black owned banks, not people who just own one black bank location, but a whole black bank. We got to have those things in place, bro. When we have those things in place, things like that, then when we receive it, we'll know what we should do with it. So even if we got it today, Warren G, we got reparations today. Most of that reparation money is going to go right back into the white hands. It's going to go right. It's going to go right back into the white hands. We show that we do it every single day. People, we get our stimulus checks. What we do, we put it right back into their hands. Just off the simple
Mm.
fact that these rappers are talking about, I'm in Gucci, I've been in here for an hour. Negro, what you talking about? You've been in there for an hour. After 2 minutes, you should have bounced. What you talking about? I've been waiting to be served. Jim Jones around for where my hood is at in New York. Like Jim Jones, go sit down, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not really about that black struggle. He's not. He's not. So when you got these dudes out here saying, yo, you know what, they not doing what they need, look at it, right? We haven't really put any fear into them. We haven't struck any fear. If we strike fear into them, then they're gonna say, yo, listen, we in a bad situation. If we don't get them we don't get them their reparations that they're wanting, they ain't putting their money into our community. But if we give them reparations, they may just put their money into our community. We probably have a better chance of giving them reparations than to continue denying them. Denying them is just going to spark the fire even more. It's gonna push the initiative for them to say, yo, we ain't purchasing nothing. That's what they fear the most. The day that blacks will rise up and say, yo, we ain't got to come at y'all with guns. We could. That'd be great. But we coming at y'all at your pockets. They don't like that, bro. But again, because we can't keep the money circulating within our own community, as soon as it doesn't even bounce once, it leaves. It just leaves the community, period, because we don't own and control anything. We don't, even though we have black owned businesses, there's not black owned industries that in which we can actually say we're going to put our money into this industry, because this industry is going to continue to pour in money for us. We don't control the food that we eat, any of that stuff, bro. We don't control it because we haven't really showed the serious side of it. And a lot of that goes with just not knowing our history. We look at it and say, yo, that was back then. We need to worry about now. Yeah, but if we learn from it, we learn from our history, we know we can take what Booker T. Washington was doing to another level. We can take that and push it to another level. We can take what Marcus Garvey talked about, which was black nation, black nation, black, 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 black. We can talk about that and we can push it in. So Marcus Garvey talked about the ship, the Black Star Line, building our own ships. Just the idea of building our own ships, shipping people from Africa back to America, just having your own ship line. We can take that. When folks want to go on vacation, we got to use these European cruise lines. All of them are owned by the Europeans, so they get billions of dollars coming in yearly. So we don't even own our own vacation time and locations. We have to be able to own these things, man. So we
Oh
own these
man.
things.
Let's see.
That'll be
Let's
something.
see. Let's
Yeah,
see.
man.
Can you hear me, my brother? Oh, I don't think so. Hold on. There we go. My brothers, can y'all hear me?
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
yeah. You went out for a second. You was going in, and then you know what happens every time me and you go in. Key Mario was going in last night, and all of a sudden the Twitter didn't want to record no more. I said, "Ain't this about something?"
My fault, brother. You went out for a second. Yeah, you kind of it
Can you
kind
hear
of.
me now? But it's like
Okay,
kind of
yes, I
going
can
in
hear
and
you.
out. I don't know if
Yes.
it's the signal. Okay, I can hear you clear now. Now go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, so that's so just to finish what I was saying, man, is we have to be able to own these these industries as well. You know what I'm saying? And we can do it. We can do it. All it takes, I'm telling you, all it takes is enough of us to make it cool. We got to make it popular. So but it's going to take a while. The combat to that is they're going to use their puppets. Their puppets, that's an entertainment. Their puppets are going to continue to push out, these white industries, these white companies, they're going to continue to advertise that. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to, but we've got to make it cool. Because once you make it cool, it becomes a trend. And it becomes a trend. We can make this a permanent trend. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say, brother. We've got to make it definitely, if we want them to take us seriously, we can't threaten them like we're going to boycott you guys. We just got to straight do it. We got to say, yo, we're not going to march. We ain't doing it. It's not cool to march. We ain't doing it. Don't do it. Right? We've got to make it cool. We can't rely on a black leader to do it because a black leader can be compromised. So we've got to do this amongst ourselves. Once we make it cool, then it becomes a trend. It goes on from a trend. We can make that trend permanent. Because that's what youngsters follow nowadays anyway. They follow trends. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's basically, man, just to wrap that up. I hope I didn't, blab off too much, brother.
Well, I'm about to hit you with some more questions. I do agree with everything that you said. And you know what? I feel like this when you said we don't control industries, that goes under the Dr. Claude Anderson, umbrella, because he's right, and the that goes under the Neely Fuller Jr. and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's umbrella as well too. We don't own anything. That's what racism, white supremacy is. It's about the competition of resources. So I definitely, you on point with that one. But I'm gonna piggyback off that real quick and say this. Now, not that we just don't own we don't own any industries. Let's just say this. Just like the Merovingian said in the Matrix, when Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus went to go see the Merovingian because he had the keymaker. The keymaker could open up every door, every lock into the mainframe in the system, the backdoor systems, all that, right? But the Merovingian had him captive. Well, when Neo went to go see the Oracle told him, well, to get to the source, which is the architect of the Matrix, you're going to need the keymaker, who's being held by a very dangerous man, the eldest of us all. He goes by the name the Merovingian. Now, the Merovingians were real people. That's not a fake, fictitious character. Those are real people. They were known as the Saints. That's where the Franks, the money comes from. They were royals. They used to battle the Moors. But when he said, well, what does the Merovingian want? The oracle said, what do all men with power want? More power. So we have to understand, we are victims of this system. We don't control anything. We think we do because we have money, but we don't control anything. And another thing I want to agree with you on and use another type of an example, you know how you said we don't control the food that's in the stores. When they sat down with the Merovingian, Neo, and they wanted the keymaker, the Merovingian told them, they were like, well, everything starts with choice. He said, no, it does not. Choice is an illusion between those with power and those without. So we're in a world right now where we're dealing with people that have real power versus people that are pretending they have power. The people pretending that they have power are the people that we see on TV every day. The real people that have power are the people we don't even know exist. And those people just happen to be in charge of racism, white supremacy, and they don't want to establish a system of justice. That's why they kill us through the food and through the other 9 areas of people activity. So my question to you, Kimario, if you want to answer, my question to you, my brother, is why is it so hard for us to understand what racism, white supremacy is? And why don't we want to establish a system of justice? I'm talking about as a people. That's my question to you, my brother.
Wait, ask that question again.
Why is it that we don't want to understand and don't know what racism, white supremacy is? And why don't we want to establish a system of justice? And the reason why I'm saying we is because how could we expect others to establish a system of justice when we are not taking the necessary steps to establish it on our own? And I don't mean establish it by going out and killing white folk. I don't mean establishing it by beating up white supremacists. I mean establishing it mentally so it translates physically. You know what I mean? So why? And when I mean translates physically, I mean cash mobbing, buying black. When we're boycotting Gucci, like you said, why is Jim Jones in the Gucci store for an hour on TV complaining like females? Why don't you just say, hey, y'all, I got treated like a nigga in Gucci. I'm about to go drop 20 racks on a black-owned business. DM me right now. I'm on Instagram. Send me your stuff, and I'm going to look at it, and the stuff I like the most, I'm dropping 20 racks on it right now. Why are we not doing that? That's my question.
Right. All right, so what I'll say, man, is simply because we have a fear of living without. Black people have been conditioned so long, and this is not an excuse, but we've been conditioned to depend upon whites and other groups that's in power for so long that even when you let us out, we don't know where to go. We don't know where to start or how to rebuild. If they send us into jail with our right mind, when you leave prison, when you've done your sentence, that same world that you came into, when you come back out, that world has changed because they've changed the system, the operating system around you. So now it's hard for a brother who just did 15 to come out and try to restructure himself. Well, it's the same thing with white racism. They've made the whole planet a big plantation. The whole planet is a huge plantation. And remember, within that plantation, you had people in that plantation, different type of people. You had that black who would say, listen, I remember where we came from. I know this is not how we supposed to be living. I know this is not real servitude. This is actual slavery. We're not supposed to be serving we're not supposed to be in slavery for 15 years and all of that stuff. And then they still have their memory. Then you have that black who was breeded in that land, never known his homeland or anywhere he came from. So where he's at, he's thinking this is what I'm supposed to do. This is work. This is labor. Along with that labor is mistreatment. And I don't like the mistreatment. Sometimes I want to leave. I want to run away. But this is labor. This is everyday life. We're supposed to be in this condition. And then you have that third black who says, I see nothing wrong with anything. Everything that master is doing right. When you let those three type of people back out into the world, when you grant them all freedom, they all enslaved, don't know it. But when you release them, you say, yeah, you're free to go. All three of them are going to return back to the plantation, even though they have three different mindsets, because the structure around them has changed from the way that they came into it. They won't know, they don't have the tools, the money, the land to be able to deal with these things. So they're coming right back to the plantation. They want to know how could they make money this time without being enslaved. You know what I'm saying? And that third black probably wouldn't even leave, in all honesty. You know what I'm saying? So when someone places the truth in front of you and they say, well, this is what racism is, and you have been impacted by racism. Racism is a race. Race And the ism is a system. It's a race between groups in that system. But that system does not benefit you. But you can overpower the system if you play as a group, like what Dr. Clyde Anderson always preached about, play as a group. You run track as a group. When blacks decide that we're going to get together and play the game of racism, we can play the game of racism as a group, and we stick to that group function, then we can over trump it. And then we can begin to say, well, from our community that we have built, because just because black folk, a bunch of black people live in an area, doesn't mean it's the black community. When we decide to make it our community, physically, mentally, spiritually, when we make it our community, now we can begin to establish a system of justice. We can hire in our own, we can secure our own neighborhoods. America, we don't need you to come out and help us out. We got our own ambulance, we got our hospitals, we have doctors, we have engineers, we have radiologists, we have all of this stuff. Don't interfere with us. We don't need you to interfere. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to come in and do service and do business with us, do business and leave. We don't need you to stay and move here. Leave, right? So we need to declare that. We need to declare that. Um, when we begin to see it that way, we can say we have just established justice properly, because now we can practice group economics that Claude Anderson talked about. We can begin to combat these germ wars, the chemical wars, concerning in that war aspect. We can start combating that, like what Dr. Francis Krauss Wilson talked about and urged us to do. You know what I'm saying? We can take back our education, like what Carter G. Woodson urged us to do. Our own black entertainment, not ran by, I'm talking about created and ran by us properly, to where it's not demeaning us. So all of these movies where these movies and TV shows where it starts off, it's gonna be gun violence. We don't need that. We had enough of that. That's for the white community. We don't need that. In our community, we are showing justice in entertainment. So we're gonna do justice to our entertainment business. We're gonna show the accomplishments. We're going to have our own sports, ran by us, for us, that's going to benefit us. You know what I'm saying? We're going to establish our own judicial system. We don't need a black to go into the Congress. I know that may be sounding a little superficial, or a little bit way out of touch, but we can do this because we would be our own nation. John Herbert Clark always said, we are a nation living within a nation, searching for a personality. This is why we don't know what to call ourselves. Our personality is lost. So we're trying to grapple with new personalities. So once we have our own person, we have our personality down pat to the T. We all understand that. We can begin to start combating these things. You know what I'm saying? So within politics, the religion and all that, we can establish these things. We can establish justice in all of those areas. And when you establish justice in all of those areas, now that strikes fear within our own community. You know what I'm saying? You're going to do right by economics. You're going to do right by in the education area. You're going to do the right thing when it comes to entertainment. You're going to do the right thing in labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You're going to do the right thing when it comes to those aspects, because you understand you can be exiled from the black community. And you're exiled from the black community, you lose all the benefits that come along with the black community. In the white community, they may want you just to kind of squirrel or whatever, but we're going to keep tabs on all of those people we exile, so that we know what type of information and where they lived at, where they worked at. We got to keep tabs on these folks. So when people try to get notorious manumission, we be able to switch up the code. But we keep the code to ourselves, but we be able to switch up the code. Like the same thing they do when you switch apartments and they switch up the key locks. We can do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And the worst thing that a black can do in those times, we've established justice in those 9 areas, is be exiled. They don't want to lose their benefits. They don't want to go back to the old way of living. They're not going to want to do that. Being controlled by white folks and Asian folks and not being treated properly, being shot down in the streets, they don't want that. So they're going to want to be a part of our community. They're going to have to be a part of our community. So they're not going to, they're going to do right because justice is there. You know what I'm saying? And I really believe that's what, Neely Fuller was talking about when he said, listen, we need to establish a system of justice. So that means it's got to operate, and we all have to understand and obey this system. So we don't go by our own system. We look at the system and we say, that's justice. The system is justice. So we've got to look at that system and obey the system in order to function properly in our community. You know what I'm saying? In our nationhood. And again, I say we go by Black nationhood. Whatever it is, we stick to Black. Nobody can, you can't claim Black. Arabs, whatever, they don't want to claim, or other race, they don't want to claim Black. They get jealous, they get upset, they get offended, they get worried, stressed out. But when we say Black, we talk Black amongst each other, it's different. So we got to stay with Black, whatever it is, native Black, foundational Black, we got to go by Black. Because you can't be an immigrant of a Black, like, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I say, my brother. In order to establish that, we have to understand racism, number one, and then when we build our nation, we got to be willing to exile with no compromise, exile anyone who's not going to look at the system and obey the system properly. And that's in all aspects, economics, education, all of that, politics, law, all of that. We've got to look at that, and we got to establish that. So no brothers can't be out here violating our sisters. Sisters can't be out here selling out our brothers, because that's you're going against the system and its sex. We need to stick to our own kind. Us, Blacks with Blacks. Right? We just need to go around this. We need to establish a Black nation. We don't have to go about going and having a flag. That'll be cool, but we don't have to. But we can do that, because we all gonna need a symbol. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I feel, brother. That's how we establish it.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Was a great answer. My question that I want to ask to our people, I'm thank you for defining that FBA, Native Black, and we just need to come up with what we're gonna call ourselves so we can get the reparations. My question too, moving forward, is: do you think in this climate right now that we are going to be able to come together? And I'm not just talking about in terms of reparations. I'm talking about in terms of having intrinsic value in each other. When I mean intrinsic value, my brother David, I mean if I see you and you driving a nice car, I'm going to tell you, hey man, I like that car. That's a nice car. It's not coming from hate. It's not coming from being fake. It's not coming from any of those things. When are we going to have intrinsic value in each other? And I think in this climate, with gas being $5 a gallon if you live in California, $4.15 a gallon if you live in Vegas, is in this climate, are we going to become closer and have more intrinsic value in each other, or do you think it's going to spread us, thin and make it where we don't have intrinsic value in each other?
We're not ready yet. We're not, as a Black people as a whole, we are not ready yet to have intrinsic value in each other. We're not. We can't even look at, look at the situation that's happening in New York and Chicago. And I understand that when you take a closer look, we understand that wherever there's no jobs, there's high crime. So Chicago, there's in the urban neighborhoods, there's not a lot of jobs. There's almost zero to none. So the crime rate is high. Then plus the government is giving a lot of guns away out there as well. So when we look at that situation, we won't even look at it and say, yo, there's children outside. Even though I see this enemy right here, there's children outside. We can't even do that. You know what I'm saying? When we see, like you said, when it just come to just complimenting a brother or sister and saying, "Yo, listen, that is a nice rod. How did you get that, man?" Like I want to know because I want to establish a business as well. How'd you go about that? We won't do it. Um, and a lot of it, of course, is because you always have a cause for everything. So this is why I don't solely blame everything on black folks. I blame us for some of our role that we play, but I don't blame us for starting these situations. Um, as I said before, we've been conditioned to not to devalue each other. All of this can be found way back when you look into 1712 with the Willie Lynch letter. The Willie Lynch letter says, I'm going to show, he said, I'm going to show you how you can control these blacks. I'm going to show you. Here's what you do. You got to put the young black male against the older black male. The younger black woman against the
Your
older
phone
black.
breaking up, my brother. My brother, your phone it was breaking up. You might have to repeat up
Okay.
so we couldn't get the whole thing. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you hear? Am I good now?
Oh, I think my brother's phone went out. Can you hear me? My brother was
No,
speaking
I'm good.
facts.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you because it was going in and out.
Okay. Okay. So I'm good right now.
Yep, you good right now. You good.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. So what I was just saying is that we have to take a look. What was the last part you heard? What's the last part you heard? Because I don't want to.
No, you just said how I said we're not gonna come to that point where when you see somebody with a nice car, you just say, "Hey, man, that's a nice car," and you're not hating on them. Because I feel like if you could tell somebody
Right.
that's a nice car with no vitriolic feeling towards that, and you don't have no hate in your heart, that's having intrinsic value in your brother or sister driving something nice or having a nice house, or because I feel like you're acknowledging their hard work versus going straight to hate. Oh man, oh they probably robbed somebody. Oh that probably ain't even their car. Oh they probably live with their mom. Like we do that to each other a lot. Other racial groups don't do that to each other, but we do that a lot. When we see somebody shine and somebody doing something nice, we're very quick to tear them down before we know their economic story or history behind how they got those materials. I think because some of us are bereft of knowledge and we're not able to get those materials like other people are. So it breeds an envy inside of us that we kind of like we compartmentalize it, and then we don't know how to have the intrinsic value in people for having nice things. And the reason why I bring up that material, because I feel like that's our biggest distraction is material. I think it's all racial groups, but I think it's more ours because we are so materialistic driven because we've never had anything. So that's why I was asking you, do you think we'll ever get to that point where we have intrinsic value in each other? Do you understand what I'm saying? Where we want our thought leaders to have nice stuff. Think about it, my brother. If you're a thought leader in our community now, you got to be broke for us to listen to you. If you're wealthy, we don't want to really listen to you in terms of being awakened. You know what I mean? And coming out of the matrix. Do you understand what I'm saying, my brother?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's
And
why that's why I was asking you that question, because I've heard you talk about that on your podcast, the No Compromise podcast. Very good podcast. People should listen to. I've heard you ask questions on your IG kind of about like how we don't value each other. So that's why I want to ask you that, because what you have said before and I've heard you speak about, that's facts, bro. Like I'm in Vegas. I see it a lot. We don't never congratulate. I actually did it to a brother one day. He didn't even know how to respond. Remember, I told you, I said, "Hey, my brother, that's a nice truck, bro. That's a nice car." And I know he was probably thinking, "Man, this dude on some weird stuff, or what? He trying to rob me?" Because we look at each other as competition and not as team members. You know, Dr. Claude, like you said, Dr. Claude Anderson teaches us it's a team sport. So who am I to dissect somebody's economic history? I don't even know them. So I should just be happy for what they have because I want them to be happy for what I achieve and what I have. But we don't view each other that way. I feel like we view each other like this. If you're not a ball player or a rapper or you ain't pimping or you not doing nothing, you're not an IG model, then you shouldn't have nice things. And if you have those nice things, oh, you live with your mama, or somebody's taking care of you. Or we're very, very much a tactician on economically destroying our own people, but we don't do that with other racial groups. And that's what I mean about intrinsic value. When are we going to bring that value back from the 60s and the 70s? You know what I mean? Before the crack epidemic. When are we going to have that intrinsic value in each other as black folk? That's my question.
Yes, and that's you can hear me pretty well now.
Yeah, I got you. I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, okay, great, great, great. Well, when we've got to take a look at it, right? So we've been conditioned to view each other in these ways, the same ways that you were just talking about of just not valuing each other. And what I was speaking about was the whole situation, like in Chicago and New York, just in these big cities that has a whole bunch of black people there, big population of black people there. Um, but the most popular one by media attention when it comes to violence, I guess, would be Chicago. If we take a look there, we don't even value our children. Like if I see that enemy, it's like, yo, I can get him right now. But there's children outside. We haven't come to that place to where we can say, yo, there's children not shooting today, not right now. And I don't think we shoot them at all, but you know what I'm saying? But it's like that's what we have to that value yet. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at it, it's getting worse.
Mm.
There's not we will not even you have black men who won't stand up for black women and black women who won't stand up for black men. I'm not trying to make it a relationship war because we can squash all of that with the Willie Lynch letter. But what I'm saying is that listen, if you see, I'm in Brooklyn. I lived in New York, right? When I lived in New York, um, there was a lady out there who went to a Chinese nail salon. The Chinese there accused the women, the female, of doing something that she wasn't doing. The woman said, "Yo, ain't me. I ain't doing all of that stuff. You crazy." The Chinese man started beating on the black woman. You know what the black men around there did? They took out their cell phones and just start recording it on their cell phones. Where was the intrinsic value in saying, yo, I don't know her, but that's my sister. Like when I see her, I see myself in her. When black people get to the point where we can get past self-hatred, that's when we'll have intrinsic value within each other. But we have self-hatred. We hate ourselves. And when you hate someone, what do you really want to do to that person? You want to destroy them. You want to humiliate them. You want to kill them when you hate someone. So if you look in the mirror and you hate yourself, you are not going to look at your next brother or sister and want to congratulate them. You're not going to look at your next brother and sister and say, oh, let's ride together. You got this business. I got this business. Let's not go against each other. Let's put our heads together and see how we can accumulate and take over this whole area. We're not thinking in terms of that. We're thinking in terms of individualism because it's been breeded into us. Literally, it's been breeded into us. It's in our DNA because we've all been mixed with some sort of white supremacist. What whites really think is individualism. So we have that DNA structure within our DNA. Somewhere in our mind, we want to go for self. And not just self for our nation, but we want to go for ourselves. That's it. We want me, myself, and I, only me and my family. We go by the ideology as, yo, as long as me and my family is good, that's all that matters. No, we have to go by as long as me and my nation is good. So who's your nation? Look into where you live at. How many black folks are there? What can we do to establish a nationhood within this neighborhood? within this neighborhood. So even though my cousin sells soap, I know she sells soap. She got her shop, her store shop. I know Warren sells soap too. I'm going to put you on to both of them. I'm not just going to say, well, Warren may take away from what my sisters, from what my family trying to do, and they selling the same thing. Why don't I get Warren and my cousin together, and they could put their heads together and do something even bigger?
Facts.
This is what we will have to do in order to see a certain level of love within each other. We've got to love ourselves. I can't have value in the next black man or black woman if I don't love myself. So it's not as it stands right now. You have abnormality and normality. It's abnormal for a black man to love another black man. I'm not homo wise, but just to have that love, like yo, I love myself, so I'm gonna love this black man. So when I see him, I'm not just gonna stare him down. I'm saying what's up. I'm like, yo, what's going on? If I take my son to a basketball practice, and I'm sitting down watching the practice, there's another black father sitting there. I'm gonna go over to that black father, and I'm gonna start a conversation. And I'm gonna ask him something, yo, man, what you think about black people? What's up? What's going on? Maybe he owns an industry. Maybe he has ties to it. I don't know. But we wouldn't know until we actually start engaging in these type of conversations. All of that is going to take for us first to get ourselves correct. And we have to begin to start dealing with hurt and unraveling that whole Willie Lynch letter ideology. Then we can go out. So we have to love ourselves. We have to find value within ourselves. We have to learn our history. That's where you find your value. You know your contributions to this country, America, and to the world. You find your value. You walk around proud. Now you can begin because you're walking out with the light now. Now you have real education. You have real education now, right? You don't just have training, but you have education. Your light is shining. So now we can go out and now I can share my light to another brother, another sister. And we can talk, we can have conversations, we can build, we can begin to build like Legos. We can make our own Monopoly game. We don't have to play their game. We don't have to sit at their table and play their Monopoly by their game. They're going to always shortchange us. They're going to start everybody else with $1,000. They're going to start us off in jail. Why play their game? Let's make the black monopoly and start our own game where only blacks start off with the cash. This is what we have to begin to do, bro. We have to kill self hatred in the community first, but it comes a part of killing it within ourselves. We kill that, then we can go out and build. Otherwise, I would never, ever, as an individual, see value in another black man or another black woman if I have none in me. And the little bit of value that I see, I'm going to hate on because I don't know how to congratulate. You know what I'm saying? Because my whole life I've been taught, yo, I've been breeded and taught, and it's been institutionalized into me to think only for myself, in myself, within myself. I've never been taught to think about you. I've always been taught to put the white man first, put the Asian man first, put everybody else first, put my own people last. That's where the problem is at. So we have to go back to the source of it. And the source is hate within ourselves. So in order to kill that, we have to learn ourselves. We have to learn our contributions, and we have to understand what is actually done and how it affects the world. That creates pride. Now you can walk around with that intrinsic value because you value the ground that you work, the ground that you walk on. You know what I'm saying? You can look and you learn about Granville T. Woods. You look at what he contributed to America, which was the third rail. You will value getting on that train. You may not value the people who built and things like that, but the ideology of taking a train, looking at these looking at these roller coasters, just looking at it, you have value to it. You say, I appreciate that because my ancestor built that, or my friend's
Fact.
ancestor built that. I walk on sacred ground. When I look at the lights, when I look at these traffic lights, I'm not gonna complain about yo, these trains take mad long. One of my ancestors created that. I have to value that. You know what I'm saying? And then we have to take a look at these things and take a look at these people who has really, really put in that work. All of that, again, it comes along with knowing yourself, like the African proverb which says, man, know thyself. You have to know that. You have to know yourself. When you know yourself, you straight. You know what I'm saying? So the only way to establishing that value is establishing the value within yourself, brother.
That's facts. Oh, that's facts. Look, man, I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad that you were able to stop by. This is our second week, so I think we doing really well. I gotta come up with some more questions to ask you. Me and Key Mario, we're gonna do something on Friday because it seems like it's still recording now. That's why sometimes I be watching it because it was supposed to be recording, but it didn't record. But I really do appreciate you, man, answering those questions.
Most definitely, man.
I
You got the
appreciate it.
topics, brother.
Hey man, you know me. I just cause I be like, I'll go on Twitter a lot, my brother, man, because I feel like my personal opinion, I feel like there ain't no time like the present, and this I feel like will make us come together and not come together to BS,
Yes.
not come together to argue and prove each other wrong, but to come together to lift each other up and to inspire us to, oh, like you said, okay, they got a business. Well, let me take $50 and support their business. Let me not ask for a discount and let me pay more because asking for a discount, you're not doing that in Gucci. You want full price so you can brag about how much you paid for it. I feel like
Right.
this situation right now is going to force a lot of us to think and
Yes.
not what to think, but how to think. And I feel like there is no time like the present. That's why I'm constantly watching The Matrix over and over again because it teaches me something new every single time I watch it. It is very imperative that people go watch that because it's the truth, man. Like the system of racism, white supremacy, it's a team sport. So if I don't
Yes.
start having intrinsic value in my people or just having intrinsic value in us as a whole, when we buy nice things, then who am I? What does that say about me? Then that means my social engineering and my socialization was you can't praise people that have nice things. You know what I mean? And it's almost like that syndrome, not the syndrome, but that mentality when you was in school and everybody failed the test. So it makes you feel better that everybody failed the test. But really everybody just didn't study for the test. But you feeling like, well, I don't feel so bad because everybody failed it. Nah, mentally, you have to understand that it's your path. And I feel like our paths are all intertwined and connected because, we melanated. So
Yes.
we have to learn how to have intrinsic value in each other. And I'm just tired of us. I like what Billy Carson says. Being woke don't mean being broke. Why is it we gotta see people riding around in a hoopty for us to respect them? Because they're conscious or they're a thought leader or they're awakened. Why they can't have a beamer? Why they can't have that? Why do we have to dissect everybody's economic gains, profits, and gain? Like, I'm not into that, bro. When I was younger, maybe I'd be like, oh, because I was raised in the church. So your programming is, oh, you know me, I was raised in the church. So my programming is, okay, this nigga got a nice car. He running game like the preachers at church. But as I got older, I stopped worrying about it because how am I going to compete with TD Jakes and Joel Osteen and Bishop Noel Jones and all these big time preachers? They must be saying something for people to want to get in their bread. So that's not my concern to be a tactician in breaking down and diagramming their economic status. My goal is to worry about Warren and handling his business. And you know what I mean? And I feel like if more people were like that, you would automatically have intrinsic value in others because you'd have it in yourself. So if you
Yes.
got a new car, but your car is not better than somebody else's, that doesn't mean what you did diminishes what somebody else did. No, And it doesn't mean what they did diminishes what you did. You got a nice new car. They got a nice new car. We just want to put value on it because that's our hierarchy. Why the dominant society is laughing because it's their people is on the money we spend, so they don't care because they even the poorest white person they're not going to trade places with no rich black person because they want to maintain, as Tariq Nasheed says, that $1 million worth of whiteness. That's some real shit. And I think we got to start having intrinsic value and stop. See, we'll go at a person for them having money, but we won't call out Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for not doing nothing for black people. That's what I don't like. We'll be like, oh, well, this nigga ain't spending enough money in the hood. But then you looking at Joe Biden, he's a career politician who locked up over 550,000 black folk in prison for mandatory minimums. So that's what I feel like today. I appreciate you coming through, man. That's it. We gonna try to do it again this time next week because I know you. I mean, I'm not gonna keep you on there because man, it's getting late where you at. I appreciate you, my brother, and hopefully this record and we gonna put this on the YouTube. So because you know my cousin, I'm gonna try to get my cousin on one of these too because she wanted to talk about it too, but I know she'd probably be at work at this time. So you know I'm gonna try to get her on it on one of them too. Maybe I can interview her or just sit down and chop it up with her on Twitter Spaces or some shit, but. My brother, I appreciate you.
You say you're doing another one on Friday, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be. Man, if you can get in, this brother Kimario was going in last night, bro. Like, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And at the end, I swear to God, Twitter did some BS, and all of a sudden it didn't record. And I'm like, wait, I know I hit the record button, and it was like, oh no, it didn't record. And I'm like, so I hit him up. I texted him. I was like, look, man, we got to do it again, bro, because that information got to get out. You know what I'm saying? Because I already told you, my brother, I wanted to start utilizing this Twitter space, man, while we have the opportunity to do it. So that's why I'm about to start utilizing it. So I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna hit up Kimario probably Thursday or Friday to confirm the time you want to do it, and then I'm gonna just DM you and let you know when. So don't trip. I'm gonna let you know, and then we gonna go live on Twitter and we gonna get it in again, man, on Friday. That good?
Yeah, I'll definitely be down for that, brother. Anytime you want, I'm ready to be down. Yes, anytime you want.
Okay. All right. Well, man, I appreciate you, man. Hey, I know it's late over there. My brother David from the No Compromise podcast. Go check him out. Shout out to everybody that listen on my YouTube page, man. But please check out the No Compromise podcast. I know my sister be checking you out all the time, and she said your stuff is great. So I appreciate you, brother.
Sister, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Hey, nah, man. Look, we grew up in church, so we know how messed up it is out here, man. We know how messed up it is. And let me tell you something.